Good morning, students. Welcome to Sri Medha IAS Academy. My name is Gautam. I'm a faculty for Political Science and International Relations. I also take classes for General Studies Paper 2, including segments like Indian polity, governance, as well as Indian foreign policy. Today, we'll have a discussion on a recent event of utmost importance in international relations. That is, the US attack on Venezuela and US efforts at a regime change in its neighbor. We all know that on the 3rd of January 2026, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, along with his wife, Cilia Flores, were captured, they were kidnapped, they were taken across the border, and they were put behind bars. These two individuals, one, the sitting president of an independent sovereign nation, and his first lady wife. These arrests have sparked an unprecedented international condemnation. A lot of countries have condemned this, except for very few allies of US like Argentina, and a lukewarm response on the part of European Union. Almost the entire world was shocked, dismayed, and expressed its strong opposition to this US move. US move of unilateral attack on a sovereign state, which is a flagrant violation of all the principles of United Nations organization, and its imposition, its capture of the term capture, the capture of the leader of an independent country. All these actually been developments which had amazed the entire world. It had shown to what extent US could go in realizing its national interests. The operation, which lasted for around 30 to 40 minutes, through which US could very easily overwhelm the air defense of Venezuela, launch its elite Delta Force to capture the president, was a shocker. The way they were apprehended with minimal resistance shows that there is a very deeper aspect to this event than which meets the eye or which captures our imagination, which requires a very keen understanding of how the international politics is actually operating, how this operation that US had conducted on 3rd of January 2026 is culmination of a series of events that had taken place prior to this period, like the US massive deployment in the Caribbean and US hostility and attack of all those vessels which were accused of illegal drug trafficking in the Caribbean waters, and continuous threats served to Venezuela by US. The defiance shown by Venezuelan leader, naval quarantine that was imposed by US. All these have ultimately culminated in this final attack on Venezuela to depose the president and kidnap him to American soil. So this is an event which can be considered as a culmination of all the events that had taken place. Now, a series of factors have contributed to this final step taken by US, that the shifting of internal politics in Venezuela, fractured nature of military support to the regime, as well as the economic desperation in Venezuela had created an opening. There is a very strong suspicion that an internal factor had aided the US operation in Venezuela. This is further compounded by the reality that the Cuban government had declared 32 of its military personnel were killed in Venezuela following the US attack on Venezuela and its campaign in Venezuela. It means President of Venezuela was under the protection of the Cuban forces. It clearly shows that there is a fractured opinion among the military of Venezuela, which made the president rather distrustful of his own army. So a good number of strategic experts feel that there is a very serious internal aspect to this event, which is yet to be uncovered or which is yet to be discovered. Now, Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president of Venezuela, is now the interim president following the directive given by the Supreme Court of Venezuela. She has actually vowed to bring the perpetrators of this attack to justice and to secure the release of the president of Venezuela, Maduro. However, what exactly had prompted US to such an action on Venezuela? Or is it a part of a pattern that we had seen continuously unfold in Latin America? Is what we require to discuss. We had seen that it is neither for drugs, nor for democracy, nor the allegations of terrorism, probably which had motivated US to take this action. There is a much deeper reason behind this campaign undertaken by US, because please remember that in 1980s, not less than 6 dictatorships were supported by US in Latin American region, including countries like Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia. In almost all these countries, dictatorships were supported by US. Therefore, US commitment to democracy, particularly in its backyard, which is called as Latin America, is not being testified by history. History is evidence that US did not care much for democracy. And US are in fact supported dictatorial regimes in countries like Brazil, large country like Brazil also, US had supported a dictatorial regime in 1980s in Paraguay, Uruguay, in Chile. It shows that US commitment toward democracy is not as strong as US wants everybody to understand. And secondly, right from 2020 onwards, we had seen that USA had begun to take steps to somehow implicate a ruler, the president of Venezuela, and trap him in legal complications. In 2020, the US Justice Department for the first time leveled allegations of narco terrorism. He was actually accused of behaving as a drug lord, and his government was accused of behaving like a drug cartel. Maduro was alleged to be aiding and abetting the drug trafficking through these waters in Caribbean. The US administration justifies the raid that is conducted against Maduro is primarily a part of the criminal indictment he was facing in the US. And it's a part of that. And to bring him to justice, this campaign was conducted by US. Now, this is the stand taken by US time and again. Now, let us try and understand the whole story behind this incident. A lot of strategic experts believe that the way US had conducted itself in Latin America shows a continuous insecurity that US feels right from the 19th century. Please remember that as far as Latin America is concerned, US had adopted a doctrine which became very popular as the Monroe Doctrine, which declares that US considers it as a paramount element of its national interest to keep the outside powers away from Americas, both in North America as well as in Latin America. In North America, America has the borders with Canada on the one side and Mexico on the other side. And in Latin America, American interests are very, very strongly entrenched. Therefore, America had as its fundamental foreign policy strategy to keep the outside powers, particularly the European powers, away from the Americans, both North America as well as South America. And America had declared through its Monroe Doctrine that any outside interference by an outside power in any of the Americas, either in North America or South America, would be considered a direct threat to US interests in this region. That was a foreign policy strategy adopted by America. Therefore, America continued to consider Latin America as its backyard, as its hinterland. America considered Latin America as its own sphere of influence. Now, please remember that there were a good number of leaders that rode on the anti-American sentiment, nationalist, socialist, and anti-American sentiment in this region, and who became very popular and who captured the imagination of people and who challenged the US domination in Latin America. People like Fidel Castro, please remember that not less than 700 attempts were made on Fidel Castro's life by CIA, by several other agencies that were supported by US, including planting a bomb in his cigar and trying to seduce him through a girlfriend, or trying to kill him when he was engaged in scuba diving, which is his favorite hobby. Several strategies were adopted by US and its agencies to assassinate such popular leaders. So America wanted to deal very strongly with any kind of opposition to US dominance in its supposedly sphere of influence, that is Latin America. But that was not to be the case. Time and again, a lot of leaders began to question this US domination in this region. We had leaders like Hugo Chavez of Venezuela, we had Fidel Castro, we had Evo Morales of Bolivia, we had Lula da Silva in Brazil. All these leaders, they rode on very, very high popular sentiment, anti-American sentiment. That was how US wanted to entrench itself in Latin America, because I told you, US considered Latin America as its periphery, as its sphere of influence. That's the reason why US is very sentimental, right from the early 19th century, to any outside interference or outside powers entrenchment in Latin America. But in recent years, what we had seen is that several other big powers like Russia, China, and Iran, they began to develop very, very good relationship with Venezuela. Another reason as to why US had to intervene in Venezuela is because Venezuela was raising voice against dollar domination. Venezuela, which is sitting on the world's largest reserves of oil and natural gas, particularly the thick oil, which has very high density and tar-like consistency, which is refined by a good number of oil giants in US. It is this oil that was a very important resource that was available with Venezuela, which could be leveraged. This oil power could be leveraged by Venezuela to end the dollar domination and American global financial hegemony. So America was fearful that Venezuela probably may make a big dent in dollar domination and US financial hegemony. And that's another reason as to why US had intervened in Venezuela. So please remember, it's just not a simple equation that America was interested to control Venezuelan oil, and that's the reason why America began to intervene in this country and it had deposed the leader and all that. There are a few other layers to American interests in Venezuela. As I told you, it is a part of the larger foreign policy doctrine of US to keep outside powers away from this region. And secondly, as I told you, US also was keen to ensure that Venezuela does not in any way dent or adversely impact the dollar domination. Towards this objective, America worked out. America had tried a lot of strategies. So before looking at American intervention into Venezuela, let's try and understand the situation of Venezuela. Venezuela suffers from what is very famously called as the Dutch paradox. Now, please remember that it can happen sometimes that a country can have very rich resources, but because of poor management of these resources, the country may continue to be impoverished. Now, this happened once earlier with Dutch. When Dutch had an oil-rich island, and because that island was completely dependent on oil, and whenever there was a fluctuation in oil trade, that country became impoverished. That island became impoverished, rather. So that was a kind of the Dutch dilemma. And Venezuela had also fallen into a similar kind of a situation because of a series of crises. Firstly, as I told you, Venezuela was having the world's largest oil reserves, estimated at approximately $303 billion of oil, which probably would be sufficient for Venezuela to meet its financial requirements for the next 400 years. The estimate was that. So it could have been a very, very rich country. In spite of that, the country had fallen into severe crisis. Why? Primarily because of poor financial management and excessive over-reliance on oil. Okay, let us try to understand very briefly the history of Venezuela. Till about 1920s, Venezuela was primarily an agricultural country, but after the discovery of oil in 1920s, Venezuela had found for itself a new leverage through which its economy could be brought on a growth trajectory. The standards of life of people could be improved. So Venezuela, from the 1920s onwards, became an oil-dependent economy. Oil became the foundation for the Venezuelan economy, and the oil trade began to fund massive urban expansion, huge government budgets. However, by 1970s, the oil shocks shook the entire world, had made Venezuela realize the leverage it had through its oil dominance. And since then, Venezuela went on a completely different path. In 1970s, Venezuela nationalized its oil fields. It began to use oil, as I told you, to fund its massive government deficits. And Venezuelan economy was structured around oil and oil trade. Therefore, there was no other product or no other item in the Venezuelan economy that could sustain its growth trajectory. It was entirely dependent on oil. And whenever there was an oil crisis or a disruption in oil trade in the world, Venezuela began to compensate by printing more and more currency. Now, this kind of a mismanagement, excessive dependence on oil, using the oil revenue to fund massive government deficits, and whenever there was a disruption to oil trade, the resort of the government to printing currency, all these were ill-conceived and faulty economic practices. It was these practices which made Venezuelan economy very unstable. Now, several other reasons, like role of Hugo Chavez, the predecessor of the present, the person Nicolás Maduro, who actually inspired Nicolás Maduro himself, had indulged in huge government expenditure to meet the basic needs of the people, to provide them with education, to provide them with healthcare, and to provide them with a lot of SOPs, cash transfers, massive welfare programs. So, economy funded by oil revenue was primarily making people dependent on the government because of the massive welfare mechanism that government had put in place in Venezuela. This led to a scenario where the economy was not diversified. It was a single product economy, and in case there was a disruption to oil trade, the economy would actually fall flat on its nose. Now, that was the scenario. So lack of diversified economy, governments continued faulty financial strategies, widespread corruption, all these ailments began to inflict the Venezuelan economy. Maduro succeeded Hugo Chavez, had another problem to contend with. Please remember that at the time of Hugo Chavez, oil trade was relatively more stable. The kind of inflows that Venezuela was receiving was more or less sufficient, and more or less it was able to finance massive government expenditure programs. However, as Maduro had taken office, oil trade became a little more unstable. In 1990s, owing to sanctions imposed, oil embargoes, the OPEC manipulation of international oil markets and prices, all these began to affect Venezuela also. So the oil trade became less dependable, it became more uncertain, and therefore government also was not able to plan its expenditure portfolio and expenditure program. It was in this context that several protests began to rise in Venezuela against Nicolás Maduro. These protests were ruthlessly suppressed by Maduro in 2015, as well as in 2018 also. There was a mass protest when it was widely considered that incumbent regime had manipulated elections, rigged the elections. So it was these things that made people suspect the credibility of the government. There was a widespread distress among the people, and Venezuela had witnessed huge outflow of its population. There was a huge outmigration of Venezuelan people. It is estimated that the outmigration of Venezuelan people was to an extent of more than 4 million, with just 1.8 million seeking asylum in other countries in only between 2018 and 19. Now, that was the scale of outmigration of people from Venezuela. That shows how much the people were against the government.